Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. Let's start with a story about our author selling his parents' house and then being accused of leaving trash, so he returns just a few days later to pick up all the leftovers, from cans of paint to the coveted gas grill. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. Buyers complained I left junk at my parents' house, so I came back and took all the junk they were going to enjoy. A couple of weeks ago, I closed on the sale of my parents' house. It was a huge milestone, bittersweet, emotional, but ultimately a relief. I spent weeks clearing out decades of belongings, organizing donations, giving away furniture, and deep cleaning the place. The house had already had a professional clean when it went on the market, and since it was vacant for months, I made sure it stayed in tip-top shape right up until closing. But only 2 days after the papers were signed, my realtor started blowing up my phone with complaints from the new owners. According to them, I left the place in shambles. They claimed there was garbage all over the property, things didn't work, the yard was too dry, and even threw in some absolutely bonkers rumors for good measure. Let's break this down. First, the so-called garbage they were talking about. That's house-related stuff I left behind intentionally. We're talking extra hardwood flooring, spare tiles, a box of light bulbs for the fancy and expensive designer lighting, the leaf extension for the custom dining room table, and critically, the custom paint colors for the interior, exterior, and trim. My parents had built the house from scratch and everything was custom. That meant the paint came with specific mix codes. I figured it'd be helpful for the new owners to have access to that if they ever needed to touch up a wall or repaint. Instead, I get accused of dumping junk. Then there's this wild rumor floating around that I left actual trash in the driveway for 3 days and allegedly was overheard saying, "I don't care." Reality, I had some items I couldn't sell or donate, so I placed them at the curb with a big free sign. That's totally normal in our town, and lots of it got picked up by neighbors. I even paid a neighbor to haul away what was left using his trailer. I specifically told him, I don't care about this stuff, so if no one takes it, just dump it and I'll cover the fees. When I did my final walkthrough and cleaning, the driveway was completely clear. That was days before closing. But apparently someone has a vivid imagination and decided to rewrite the narrative. As for things not working in the house, every issue had already been disclosed in the home inspection. Nothing was hidden, nothing was new. The buyers had full knowledge going into the sale. So the attempt to hit me up for repairs after the fact, not happening. Then there's the complaint about the yard being too dry. We live in a semi-arid desert-like area. It's hot, it's dry. There was even a wildfire nearby recently. The grass isn't going to be lush and green unless you install a golf course-grade irrigation system and burn a hole in your water bill. The yard was in the same condition as when they first saw it. It didn't magically dry out post-sale. But here's where the pettiness meter cranked up a notch. Despite living 2 hours away and having 3 kids, I actually offered to come back and help smooth things over. That offer was met with more complaints. So I did what any rational, annoyed seller would do. I returned to the house and collected everything I'd left behind. Everything that wasn't explicitly outlined in the contract. I took the spare flooring, the light bulbs, the tile, and the paint cans. Good luck color matching those walls now. I even took the extension leaf from the dining table, so enjoy seating only 4 people at a time, I guess. Oh, and remember that super fancy barbecue grill hooked up to the natural gas? I had no plans for it at my new place since I don't even have a gas line, but I knew the buyers had commented on it fondly during the showings, so originally I left it behind as a goodwill gesture. Not anymore. That baby's mine now. Into the truck it went. Same with the heavy-duty gazebo shading the back patio. I figured it'd be a nice thing to leave. It fits perfectly, keeps the west-facing windows from turning the house into an oven in the summer, and was a pain to install, so I assumed they'd appreciate it. But if they're going to act like I dumped a landfill in the yard, then they can enjoy that patio in full sun all summer long. Maybe they'll sweat out some of the entitlement. I played nice, I went above and beyond what was required, and somehow that still wasn't good enough. Lesson learned. Next time I sell a house, I'm taking every single damn thing that's not nailed down. Maybe even a few things that are. Can you imagine them moaning to their friends, "They left all this paint and trash lumber"? Mate, you know they're super useful. What do you mean? You know, if you need to repaint a damaged wall, I'll just buy paint. What paint? Do you know the color? It'll never match. What do you mean? That was actually really thoughtful of them. You demanded they take it away? Ha ha ha, you effing idiot. And our second story. Bought a 4.5K car, got a 7.5K car after the dealer screwed up. This may not be true malicious compliance, but good story. Back in the mid-90s, at age 19, I bought a little used car from a used car dealership. No car they sold was overly expensive, nothing under 3 years old. The car I bought had an outstanding recall, so the used car dealer was taking it to Ford for me. So after driving it for a week, I drop it off to the dealer to take to a Ford shop, dropped it off and was given a loaner. Get a phone call later that mechanic was an accident and car damaged bad. He was okay. There ultimately a dispute on who was responsible for causing accident. Car was not repairable, nor would I want it after repairs. The person who called was asking me about insurance coverage. I straight away said that it's on them. My insurance company also got involved too, as other driver made a claim. The dealer also tried to say my insurance would cover me, a loaner vehicle. You had to be 25 to rent from Enterprise. I was 19. Nor should I put that on my insurance. Nope, I said I'm keeping the loaner they provided me originally till it's worked out. 2 weeks later, the owner agreed to replace the car and cover damages, keeping my insurance out of it. Maybe the fact that I knew and worked for a lawyer friend had something to do with this decision, and a nice letter my lawyer friend sent. The owner said, come pick any car you want off the lot. Great, I'll take the loaner vehicle. It was nice and drove great. Owner says, well, that's my wife's fully loaded car she likes to drive. We were figuring something similar to your previous car. My lawyer friend immediately, who came with me and sure no nonsense occurred, says you just contracted verbally he could have any car on the lot. The loaner is on your lot, dealer tagged, and is on your books as a vehicle for sale, and given how this issue was handled, dealers would get cars in and drive them on dealer tags for personal use. The owner's wife was doing that with the loaner they gave me, thinking originally I'd only have it for a day. Needless to say, the loaner vehicle was signed over to me, left with a $7,500 fully loaded car versus my $4,500 destroyed car and a signed agreement they were financially responsible. He did say any car. Shout out to the 90s era of dealership loans where mechanics literally zipped around on dealer plates like it was their personal chariot. Nowadays, most places would hand you a rental agreement with Enterprise, but back then, you could take the wheel of a car that technically still belonged to the lot. Using that to your advantage was pure gold. And our next story. Karen yells at me for eating our own products. One early morning, I had to wake up early because it's our exams later that morning, so I hurried to go to school, but when I was on my way there, I realized that I did not have my breakfast yet, so I stopped by this local restaurant to get some food. When I was eating my breakfast, a woman entered the restaurant, and I made the biggest mistake of glancing at her for a second. Then I noticed her stomping onto my direction. For information, I was wearing a school uniform. This was a white polo and black slacks. I was wearing a jacket, so I think she didn't notice. So here's how the conversation went. K. Hey, you. I want her order. Me. Ma'am, I don't. K. I don't want to hear any rants from you. Hurry up and take my order. And you should not be eating your own products. That's for customers only. Me, annoyed because I was running late. Ma'am, I don't work here. And if you want someone to take your order, then go to the... K. Don't lie to me. I know you work here because you're wearing the same pants as the others. At this moment, the manager heard all her yelling and confronted us. Manager, what seems to be the problem here? K. He's rude to me and doesn't want to do his job. He's also eating this restaurant's products that is only for the customers. The manager glances to me, then glances back to K. M. But he doesn't work here. Me. That's what I was telling her. Kay then yells at me for how the customer service was bad and she'll inform everyone because she was a blogger. At this point, I was thinking of leaving because I was late. Right when I was at the door, Kay suddenly grabs my jacket and I fall to the floor. At this point, the manager is now mad at Kay for assaulting a customer and he threatened to call the police. Kay then was so angry that she just stormed off. The manager apologizes to me for having to deal with that woman. I was really late and I had to go. So I left and grabbed my stuff. I then saw Kay on the other side of the street mumbling with an angry look on her face. I would have helped her take her order if she wasn't a C-word little bee, and I hope to never encounter a wild Karen again. No. Don't ever offer to help her order if you're not an employee, OP. That just encourages Karens to keep acting badly against fellow customers. And our last story. HOA tried to fine me for driving a boat I don't even own. I own a house on Cedar Ridge Lake, a beautiful spot with just 19 properties on our stretch of shoreline. It's part of a small HOA, and honestly, up until now, it's been mostly fine. Quiet neighbors, decent upkeep, the usual. Except we've got one ridiculous bylaw buried in the rules that reads, no lot owner shall place or operate a gas-powered boat on the lake. Now here's the kicker. The lake is public, owned and managed by the state. On the opposite side, my cousin lives on one of the many non-HOA lots and owns 2 gas boats, perfectly legal. No state laws against it. Every weekend during the summer, I hop over, we boat, we grill, we fish, normal lake stuff. Last week, I get an email from the HOA's compliance officer, which is just a fancy name for one of the board members who's bored in retirement, telling me I'm in violation of our bylaw because I was seen operating a gas boat on the lake. Mind you, the boat is not mine. It's not docked on my property. I didn't launch it from my dock. I don't fuel it, store it, or maintain it. I just drove it for a few laps with my cousin and his kids on board. Apparently, the fact that I physically touched the steering wheel means I'm now breaking the rules, which is wild, because if you read it literally, the bylaw bans any operation regardless of ownership or location. So what now? Are they going to start checking driver's licenses mid-lake? I responded politely and said the boat wasn't mine and left it at that. I could tell even the property manager was embarrassed about having to send the warning in the first place. But this little saga made something click in me. Why are we enforcing a private restriction on a public lake, especially when other boats buzz by us all day? This isn't some gated pond, it's a 300-acre state lake. The rule is nonsense. So yeah, I'm getting on the board. It's only 19 homes. Shouldn't be too hard to gather support to amend or kill the rule outright. I've already spoken to 2 neighbors who thought it was just as dumb. Honestly, I'm not even that upset anymore. I just can't let something this silly go unchecked. If nothing else, I'm going to enjoy the look on HOA Bob's face when we vote to strip his precious little anti-boat clause out of the bylaws. Update. So yeah, I got on the board. It wasn't hard, only 19 homes, and turns out I wasn't the only one who thought the boat rule is idiotic. In fact, it took me all of 2 weeks and a few beers on back porches to learn that more than half the neighborhood either had family with gas boats or had quietly broken the rule themselves. Apparently, people had just been keeping their heads down for years because no one wanted to poke the bear. HOA Bob, the guy who basically lives to enforce bylaws and hand out passive-aggressive emails. Well, I poked the bear, and then I poked the whole damn forest. I drafted a proposed amendment to strike the no gas-powered boats clause entirely. It took 3 signatures to bring it to vote. I had 6 in the first weekend. Bob tried to push back, rambling about environmental integrity and peaceful water use, but he clearly hadn't realized how many residents have nephews and grandkids who love tubing and wakeboarding. We had the vote 2 weeks ago. 14 out of 19 households voted yes to repeal the ban. Bob abstained, visibly seething. Another board member quit on the spot because this isn't the HOA I signed up for. Okay, Kevin. Now the rule's dead. I can ride my cousin's boat past my own dock with a stupid grin on my face and wave to Bob, who now avoids eye contact like the HOA bylaws are cursed scrolls that might smite him. Oh, and I'm still on the board. We're now reviewing 3 other outdated rules, including one that bans inflatable lawn decor. If Bob thought a pontoon was bad, wait until he sees my 8-foot-tall inflatable flamingo next summer. HOA tyranny, 0. Neighborhood common sense, 1. Stay salty, Bob. In the meantime, enjoy cruising past your own dock on that gas boat, waving at anyone who wonders why the lake ever felt like a private pond. You've reminded everyone that a few reasonable, well-supported voices can keep an HOA rooted in common sense, especially when it comes to public resources like a state-managed lake. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.